Welcome to CRCA's Torch Safety Module 4, Hazard and Prevention Measures. The open flame torch membrane application process gives rise to acute fire risk if fire hazards are not identified and controlled prior to torching. Prior to torching, all roofing components shall be evaluated in terms of compatibility and combustibility from the open flame. The applicator must be aware of environmental or weather conditions, building and roof detail conditions during all phases of open flame application. To prevent fire and property loss, hazard detection and correction is critical. As with all safety programs, a written hazard assessment shall be completed prior to lighting torches. A thorough examination of the worksite and roofing operations to identify what potential or actual hazards exist must be conducted prior to torching. A hazard assessment should be completed by the roofing crew when setting up on a new job site in accordance with the company's safety policy. Each hazard assessment should have 4 major components. The people, including employees and building occupants. The environment they work in, the materials they are working with, and finally, the equipment and tools that they use. To ensure safe applications, a hazard assessment of the building and the roofing system must be undertaken before torches are lit. Use a Project Fire Hazard Assessment form for torch-applied roofing membranes. We will briefly discuss the factors and the types of construction that have unique fire hazards associated with them. Re-roofing or modernization. During re-roofing, unknown construction usually is encountered with incomplete and omitted air barriers, building envelope seals, and details. During re-roofing, old wooden components exist at the curbs, parapets, and roof and wall junctions, which can be a fire hazard if not removed or replaced. Accumulations of dust and other combustible materials are present in parapets and wall cavities. Combustible wall finishes, such as the presence of wood siding, wood chip insulation in older buildings, and building paper behind stucco, are definitely a hazard that needs to be identified and controlled. Operational roof-mounted mechanical equipment and service lines encountered, such as heating, ventilating, and air conditioning units, intake and exhaust ventilators, gas and electrical service lines need to be disconnected or removed whenever possible. In new construction, highly combustible or incompatible air barriers and building envelope substrates and materials may be incorporated. The design must provide for compatible materials for torch-adhered, modified bitumen products. Roof and wall penetrations are not often sealed to prevent or retard flame migration. Poor housekeeping practices during the construction phase, such as accumulation of wood shavings or garbage disposal into the wall cavities by other trades. Environmental conditions or weather effects. Temperature. The air temperature may increase flammability or combustibility of substrates and roofing materials. As the temperature decreases, primer flash-off times increase. High wind speeds reduce flame intensity and may deflect intended flame direction. In unsheltered locations, the flame may be pushed into unprotected building openings and substrate voids and may be the cause of a fire. Be aware of the negative air pressure created in some high-rise buildings as the result of the stack effect or wind pressure. Negative air pressure within buildings can draw the torch flame into unprotected gaps, cracks, and building voids during torching operations if they are not properly protected from the flame impingement. Mechanical exhaust equipment must be shut down to minimize or eliminate air movement within the work area whenever possible. Ensure that all wall-mounted exhaust fans and ventilators are shut down during torching operations. Some substrates are more susceptible to ignition and burning during open flame applications. Oriented strand board, or OSB, plywood, and dimensional wood must be prepared, treated, and covered to reduce the risk of fire. Wood fiber insulation may smolder for hours with minimal exposure to the torch flame and must be protected in all instances. Seal all voids and openings when torching to either combustible or non-combustible substrates. Unsealed voids may permit flame infiltration behind the torchable substrate. Cover gaps, cracks, and voids with self-adhering tapes and membranes prior to torching.
Way up, do the cut. And now we're just going to work our way back down on the left-hand side. And we're working our way down, we're getting down, we're in the very bottom corner.
Having no or poor air barriers, combined with aged substrates, increase fire risk as the flame may infiltrate at these locations if not controlled. The most dangerous roofing fires are the ones you don't see. By the time you notice, it may be too late. As you can see, a roof contains many penetrations and common fire danger points. Careful attention must be paid when performing torch work around these areas. We will identify and discuss each individually. Plumbing vents emit gases and vapors which could ignite. The typical gas that is emitted is methane, which is flammable. Older plumbing vents incorporating a lead collar need to be replaced, as the lead may be cracked and allow the torch flame to infiltrate, causing a fire. Old wood elements, if left in place, are susceptible to fire due to their dry condition. Checking and shrinking of the wood over time may create spaces for the flames to go behind or through if left unprotected. Combustible or wood components contained in masonry or concrete walls and parapets must be completely covered or protected from ignition with a self-adhering membrane prior to torching. Prime the area and cover combustibles with self-adhering flashing membrane, or use fire prevention tape prior to torching. Grease, lint, and dust roof accumulations. Shut down exhaust fans and clean up accumulated material under, within, and around the unit. Lint accumulations contained within and surrounding dryer vents are highly flammable as they are composed of non-synthetic fibers. On restaurants, grease accumulation at kitchen exhaust ventilators are highly flammable and need to be removed prior to torching. Flame can be drawn in and around flashings and openings. Vapors exhausted from inside the building, such as paint or chemical fumes, could ignite. When in doubt, always shut down exhaust units before torching. Check with the building occupants. The torch flame can ignite fluids, gases, and electrical conductors contained in metallic service lines. Natural gas lines are dangerous. Beware of any gas odor around lines or HVAC units. It is recommended that all attached electrical and gas service lines within the work area be removed whenever possible or protected with fire blankets. Through-wall scuppers are particularly dangerous, as the flame can enter in and around flashings and ignite exposed membrane, debris, or substrate if these areas are not protected prior to torching. Flame can be drawn into and around wall louvers, frames, and openings. Shut down this equipment, fill voids, and seal openings with fire prevention tape or metal flashing prior to igniting the torch. Painted galvanized wall and parapet flashings and joint sealant materials can be ignited by the torch flame if not properly removed or protected. The torch flame can be drawn under metal flashings and enter the building where inadequate air seals exist. It is recommended that metal flashings always be removed prior to torching to the adjacent substrate. Debris and petroleum products, such as refrigerant oil, can accumulate under and around roof-mounted equipment and needs to be cleaned up prior to torching. Remove large accumulations of bird droppings and feathers under sleeper-mounted rooftop units. Remove units prior to membrane replacement. Beneath them, the torch flame must be visible at all times. Roof-mounted ductwork contains dust and debris accumulations, which can be ignited by the heat of the flame. It is recommended that roof-mounted ductwork be removed prior to torching the replacement membrane. Gum cups and pitch pans can contain combustible materials, sealants, and packing materials, which could ignite during torching if not removed or protected from the flame. At roof curbs, the flame can be drawn into and around ductwork, covers, and under metal flashings. Flame can ignite combustible debris and bitumen materials beneath counter flashings. It is recommended that metal flashings be removed prior to torching. Lead flashings can melt from the heat of the torch, permitting flames to enter at these openings. It is also common that older lead flashings may be cracked and allow the flames to enter at these openings. It is recommended that they not be reused. Roof drain openings are a potential hazard, as the flame can be drawn into the drain hopper and around lead flashings when lead flashings are used. It is recommended that the membrane base sheet cover any drain openings and are then opened after torch operations are completed around the drains. Flame is readily drawn into operating rooftop intake units. Ensure units are shut down prior to torching. Flame can melt solder at flashing joints or be drawn into the building from around the storm collar, as there is no physical closure between the vent jack, and the storm collar. Most security lighting systems are controlled by automatic timers or by photoelectric cells that are programmed to switch the lighting system on or off at predetermined times. Generally, these light fixtures contain high-temperature bulbs, such as halogen bulbs, that if switched on after the crew has left for the day, they can produce temperatures high enough to ignite combustible roofing materials, if left lying around the roof at day's end. A potential fire hazard exists when the light fixtures are not disconnected, removed from their mounting, and laid face down or near combustible surfaces during roof operations. Disconnect and remove light fixtures from the work area. If this is not possible, it is recommended that the removed light fixtures be remounted on its support prior to leaving the site. Other rooftop hazards. The entire torch flame must be visible at all times when torching. High winds can cause the torch flame to be drawn offline into unprotected gaps, cracks, and voids. It is recommended that when re-roofing, perform frequent cut tests of the existing roof and wall construction. Leave nothing to chance. Eliminate any voids, gaps, and cracks in the building elements prior to torching. Cover combustible substrates to protect them from ignition by the torch flame. Never operate portable generators or electrical equipment near propane cylinders, as leaking propane vapor collecting on the roof surface could be ignited by an electrical spark. Polyfilm surfaced modified bitumen base sheets become extremely slippery and may be a falling hazard when wet, snow, or frost covered. Install guardrails or use fall protection when working near the roof edge at all times. Ensure good housekeeping at all times. Remove construction debris, primer pails, and plastic wrappers from the work area, as they may become the source of a rooftop fire if left to accumulate. Gaps between window openings and frames may be filled with combustible materials. If left unprotected, the torch flame may be drawn into the building between the frame and the wall opening. Protect the fill insulation placed around the frame from flame. Seal gaps and openings with fire prevention tape or self-adhering membrane or metal flashing. When the last torch has been shut down for the day, an experienced roofer, familiar with the modified bitumen roofing operations of the day, should undertake the fire watch. No torching should be undertaken after the fire watch has begun. The worker responsible for the fire watch shall follow the fire watch procedures set out in the company's safety program. The recommended fire watch duration for new construction is a minimum of 1 hour, unless the specific duration is required by the contract documents. When re-roofing, additional fire watch times may be required, as the building may be more susceptible to hotspots and fires. During winter, it is recommended to terminate torching operations in the afternoon to permit completion of a fire watch during daylight hours. Workers must not perform a fire watch alone in the dark, as this practice is unsafe, as assistance is not readily available in the case of an emergency, injury, or illness. Fire watches are required when workers are leaving the roof work area, particularly during lunch or coffee breaks. It is recommended that at the end of the day, the interior of the building be walked prior to leaving the site. Fire watches need to be recorded on a Fire Watch Job Procedure Form. A fire watch requires both visually and physically checking for rooftop hotspots and smoldering fires in concealed spaces after torching. Be alert to any unusual odors. Check all torching equipment, including propane cylinders, to ensure that they are shut off, disconnected, and properly stored. Make corrections as necessary. Check for hot spots around fans and roof-mounted HVAC units, which may have been turned back on after torching was completed. Check all roof penetrations, roof junctions, and control joints for suspected hot spots. Check for fire at any breaks or openings in the roof structure. Your bare hand placed along a suspected problem area is a useful tool in detecting hot spots, as they may not be readily visible. An infrared detector or heat gun will assist in the accurate detection of roofing hotspots. Record the readings taken at numerous roof locations at regular intervals. Readings that show an increase in temperature should be investigated immediately for fire. A log of the readings may have to be submitted to document that the fire watch procedure was completed on a daily basis for some projects. To prevent fire and property loss, early detection and response are critical. All fires should be reported to the local authority or to the fire department. Do not delay in reporting. Report all fires immediately by dialing 911. It is recommended that the caller remain on site to direct emergency vehicles when they arrive at the site. Follow the emergency response procedure prepared by your company's safety program. Upon arrival at a rural center, stop in at the local administrative office and inform officials of the roofing work to be completed by your firm. Ensure that the firefighting services are available in the area, if any. Should a volunteer fire department exist, ask the chief to meet with the roofing crew to exchange information, such as building location, duration of roofing work, as well as the firefighting capacity. Volunteer fire departments usually have slower response times. If no fire department is available, follow your company's emergency plan for a rural building site. Operable water and ABC chemical-type fire extinguishers shall be placed in the work area. Check that the extinguisher has the correct inspection tag and that the pin cap or seal and handle are secured. Use water extinguishers for fiberboard fires. Do not use water on asphalt fires. Use ABC-type extinguishers for flammable liquids, primers, and asphalt fires. It is recommended that one extinguisher be provided for each torch mechanic when properly trained. Small hotspots and smoldering materials may be extinguished. Remember that portable fire extinguisher use is your first line of defense. If the fire cannot be controlled, call 911. Warn building occupants and do not return to the roof for any reason. It is recommended that torch mechanics complete a portable fire extinguisher training program. Cell phones may be useful to reduce response times. Ensure that crew members also know the locations of land-based phones, should cell phones not operate correctly or are in and out of the service area. Ensure that crew members are informed and know how to operate all communication devices. As a recap, we will review fire prevention techniques contained within Module 4. Inform building occupants of torching activity. Determine construction, composition of roof and wall assemblies before torching by completing cut tests. Shut down heating, ventilation, and air conditioning units and intake fans in the work area at their control panels and lock off. Avoid heat contact with lead or metal flashings, which may be damaged by torch temperature. Do not use flame directly around open penetrations. Do not torch in an enclosed area where gases and fumes can accumulate and flash back. Never torch directly to roof fiberboard insulation or cants. When torching the membrane flashing, use gussets at all corners and joints to prevent flame infiltration at these locations. Do not torch anywhere that you cannot see the torch flame at all times. Remove debris from roof and work areas, as ignition of wind-blown materials could result in a fire. Use care when torching dry roof surfaces and materials, particularly around openings at the roof junctions. Dust and dirt are flammable and can be ignited when in contact with the torch flame. It is recommended that gasoline not be used to clean tools and is stored away from torching operations. Examine the condition of the roofing system components, including decking and insulation, old or new, that are going to be torched over. Do not leave a lit torch unattended for more than 2 minutes. Shut down and place on the stand when leaving the immediate work area. Do not lay a lit torch over a roof edge, propane cylinders, or containers that could permit the torch to fall and cause a fire. When not in use, a lit torch must be resting on its stand, pointing away from the roofing system and any combustibles. Ensure that fully charged fire extinguishers are provided for each torch operator and are placed within easy reach in each work area away from the propane cylinders. Post a fire watch at the end of the day for a minimum of 1 hour after the last torch has been shut down.